So it has a brew. So I sort of felt obliged to do a brew time because I haven't done one for a while. I was supposed to do one at the beginning of the week, but I've had so much other stuff to do, what with work and everything else like that, I kind of haven't really had time, and I've been applying for jobs and many other things. So first things first though, the mug. One's the Jewelers actually gave this to me. It's a local company who are now actually online, which is really cool. I remember that they were based in Helston and they've been going for years and years. I remember I bought like a few watches from them like way back when I used to live here first. But they're really good, and they've got some great dartings and stuff. They've got some fantastic. They've got a few really good like tankards and beer glasses. Like I think Darting make this the ultimate beer glass, and ultimate cider glass, and ultimate lager glass, and they're really quite cool. So you should have to go and check them out. I'll put a link in the description below. It's always worth supporting local businesses anyway. So Microsoft Band. This was released. I'm just trying to think now. It might be last week. I'm not too sure. Basically, Microsoft have decided to jump on the bandwagon of smartwatches, smart bands, smart things on your wrist, wearables. It looks quite good. However, I'm still sort of not too sure whether or not it's actually any good related to other things. I actually want to talk about smartwatches because it's kind of like, it's a market that kind of exists, but I don't see it as a market that should exist. Like, I think it's a good idea because basically it means that you can have something in your wrist and you can just quickly glance at it. You can see what appointments you've got coming up. If you get a phone notification, you can quickly glance at it while you've got your hands full or while you're doing something else, so then you don't have to dig your phone out to read a text or whatever. But at the same time, most people have the phone in their hand most of the time, and if a notification goes off, they go and reach the phone. And that's the kind of the trouble is, it's sort of like it's an addition to the phone, because obviously it's not a replacement for the phone, and so you should already have to have a phone anyway, and so I can't really kind of see the point of it. The other trouble as well with smartwatches is basically they're just notification centers. They're basically just an addition to whichever notification center you have within either Android or within iOS. So it's a bit pointless kind of having them at all anyway. So I don't necessarily see so much of a need for it, and I was going to go and get the Moto 360 because it looks really cool and it looks more like a watch than the others. But realistically, all it is an addition to Google Now, so it's kind of like I don't really see there a need for for a Moto 360 kind of device, wearable or anything like that. One thing I would like, and I think is a good wearables tech, is things like Google Glass. If people can get over the idea of everybody owning Google Glass and having cameras around everywhere, which they are anyway, this is I don't really understand. Like, people get really funny about Google Glass. It's because they feel as though people can covertly record them without their knowledge and without any obvious stuff. But if you think about it, that happens all the time anyway. You've got CCTV everywhere. Everyone's got their cameras out. Everybody's got smartphones. So really, I don't see it as an issue, and it's not like if the police were constantly monitoring every single Google Glass, then yeah, it might be an issue, but they're not. It's basically just going to users, and users can do whatever the hell they want with it, and I think it's really cool. And actually, that is a lot better than glancing at your watch, because you can just look straight up, and it's just kind of there. So Google Glass kind of stuff and augmented reality kind of stuff I think, is a lot better. And really the way that really most things should be going. I don't know that we're going to see lots of people wandering about with Google Glass, even if you get cheaper versions of Google Glass. I don't think it's really going to happen, but it would be a cool thing to see, and actually I prefer that than smartwatches, because smartwatches are kind of like every Christmas we seem to have, like every other Christmas, or like maybe like 3 years in between each Christmas, we have this thing that comes out and it either does really well or it's really shit. Smartwatches are one of them. There's some smartwatches of this year. Last year, what was last year? Well, we didn't really have anything last year. Year before that wasn't really anything either. Oh well, smartphones. Oh no, it would have been the next gen consoles. That was the year before last. Actually, no, that might have been last year, because when did they came out last year. The next gen ones came out last year. Year before that would have been, just trying to think. Oh, a couple of years ago it would have been tablets. Tablets were a big thing. So there seems to be lots coming out sort of around about Christmas, and it's when most people try and maybe 4K TVs in fact actually, and tablets, Windows 8 devices that have got tablets and a laptop embedded as well. So there's lots of that kind of stuff. Kind of comes out around Christmas, and it's for the Christmassy market. And yeah, smartwatches are going to be one of those things that's going to be quite a popular thing to buy people. Now, the point of the Microsoft ban, I'm not going to go to the ins and outs of the Microsoft ban and go on about it because it's just another wearable device. Apparently it's not running an OS, so it's running like a slimmed down version of Windows 10, but it's not quite Windows 10, it's kind of like an embedded devices kind of thing. And what Microsoft are calling it is Windows 10 Athens. And it's basically Windows Embedded compact format. Kind of like Windows Embedded always was for things like, I'm just trying to think, well, like petrol stations and stuff, they had Windows Embedded, and like on embedded devices that were really low powered and didn't really need a dedicated PC. It's kind of like that, but kind of a lot slimmer and a lot smaller, and it's not actually running a proper OS. It's kind of more of a firmware with a GUI on top of it as opposed to a proper OS. Although technically it is really an operating system because you have to have an operating system to do most of those kinds of things. So yeah, it might not be as big as Windows 10, but it's still going to be really technically an operating system in of itself. You might not be able to do anything as a user in terms of installing your own shit like you would be able to with any operating system before, but it is pretty much an operating system in its own right, even though Microsoft are technically calling it not. It does look really cool, and it's another thing, you know, it's Microsoft just jumping on the bandwagon that exists with now Google, Apple, and now Microsoft, and obviously then you've got the other third parties like LG and Samsung and all these other kind of people creating their own devices. But yes, now if you haven't heard the news and you haven't been reading the news, you might have missed slightly a little bit. Tim Cook came out of the closet. Well, not so much as came out of the closet, just kind of confirmed what we already knew for years. I mean, basically the short and long of it, Tim Cook has been not out, but out to most people for a while, and there's been, it's kind of, there was an article that came out ages ago that was kind of bandied about, and obviously then we all knew about it, and it became the public light, and a lot of people heard about it, but because loads of people knew that was the case anyway, but nobody mentioned it, because it's not something you do mention, because it's just not, it's just because it doesn't make any difference. So whether or not you're black, gay, straight, lesbian, transgender, doesn't matter. If you're good at what you do, then great. And Tim Cook is good at what he does, which is why he's the CEO of one of the biggest companies in the world. Now, Tim Cook, so you can read the article, it's from Business Week. He did the article in Business Week, and it's absolutely fantastic. His point of doing it and the point of coming out was to basically say to younger generations of people, he said, if the CEO of Apple can come out and, you know, be open about who he is, if that helps you know, a very small number of young people to help them come to terms with it, then he's done the right thing. And that's really, really great. It's a fantastic read as well, by the way. It's worth just reading it, even if you're not, you know, that kind of way inclined in terms of anything like that. You just treat everybody normally. Anyway, it's a nice article, and it's kind of, it's worth looking at. Now, Microsoft is going to make Office free for iPads, which is great. So before, you could use Office, but you had to have an Office 365 account to actually run Office on the iPad. They've also updated the iPhone version, which is now more like the iPad version, because the iPhone version was apparently shit. I never used the iPhone version, so I don't know. The iPad version is always great, though. It's pretty much like a full version of Office on your iPad device, which is great. So what they're going to do is they're going to make it completely free for you to do basic edits. So for you to edit text and, well, I guess, make it bold and big and all that other kind of stuff. But some of the advanced editing they're going to turn off. So you're going to have to get an Office 365 subscription to be able to use that. I think this is kind of quite a good idea. And actually, Office 365 as an idea and as a thing to get your customers paying X number of, you know, pounds a month is great. But what Microsoft are doing, which I don't agree with, is they're having one plan for everybody. So they have a plan. It's an Office 365 plan for home users, and it's the same price across the board. I'd much rather see Microsoft release like a varying version, like they do with Windows, I guess, of Office 365. Office 365 for mobile, which would cost you like £1 a month, and would allow you to use Office on any mobile device, so Android, iOS, Windows Phone. Although Windows Phone, I think they provide it to you for free anyway because you're a Windows Phone user. But yeah, provide them with a full version of Office, well, pretty much through the app, and probably a version of it online for however much. And then you then charge people a bit more if they want the actual programs on top of it. So, you know, you charge them, I don't know, whatever it is at the moment. I want to say it's about 12 quid a month, which is actually quite high, but I don't know. It might be as low as 7, I'm not too sure. But yeah, I think it's a good idea, and actually I think a lot of people would probably, well, me personally, I don't want to pay for a subscription model on any software like that. I want to buy it and leave it and install it on any system I want to, and that's it. I don't want to have to pay some fee to be able to use, you know, a monthly fee to be able to use it. I mean, I guess it does mean that it spreads the cost of Office across the year, so you're not paying, you know, 100 and odd quid at once. Well, I think it's about 80 quid in one foul swoop, but you know, for me as a geek, I'd much rather own the actual physical, well, not necessarily the physical hardware, but a key, and I then keep hold of that key for as long as I want to use that software, and then I just upgrade to the next version when it comes out. So yeah, but it's quite good that they're releasing it for free for the iPad now, and still having like an advanced version for Office 365 users. I don't know that it's necessarily going to get more customers down. I think it might be because they released this software and nobody's actually using it because you need an Office 365 account, and not very many people have an Office 365 account, and so Microsoft can probably use, you know, those free users. Maybe they're hoping that they're going to jump on the Office 365 kind of bandwagon and go from there. Also, if you did miss it, Microsoft and Dropbox are teaming up, so there's going to be a Dropbox app coming in, and they're kind of going to embed Office on Windows Mobile with Dropbox, so that it's going to use Dropbox as opposed to SkyDrive for storing shit, which is quite cool. Not that it necessarily matters because because Dropbox is better than SkyDrive, but SkyDrive pretty much does the same thing as Dropbox, so it's kind of like, I don't really see why they need to kind of marry together. I'm not too sure. Maybe it's because Windows Azure is kind of a bit shit, and so maybe they're thinking, well, we'll use Dropbox with their power of Adobe Web Services without paying any money to Adobe Web Services, Amazon Web Services, because obviously that will just say to everybody else, well, actually Windows Azure is shit. Windows Azure is pretty crap, but so is AWS. AWS is like, it's a really good idea, but half the time it goes down. Well, not half the time, you know, as a percentage it's not very high, but when it goes down for a while, and it then scouts out all your services that use AWS, which is annoying, like Instagram and other things like that. It's good that it's scalable, but it's annoying that, say, it means that it's not as reliable as you'd hope, and so it would just kind of cut out. Well, that was a rambling load of drivel, but you kind of get on what I mean. Now, there's something else I wanted to share with you, is a thing called Form. Basically, it's like a home security thing, but unlike the other things that exist, it doesn't include cameras. There's no cameras. All it does is you get like a little box thing, and if it detects breaking glass, if it detects sound, if it detects like sirens, if it or like, you know, alarms, if it detects certain particles in the air, it'll alert you via an app, and also I think it will light up and it will do other things, and it will make noise and all this other kind of stuff. But Form have been trying to make sort of home security better, like smart home security better, because the trouble is, at the moment, most home security is kind of very invasive, and you know, you have cameras, you have audio, you have all this stuff, and it's monitored, and it then gets sent to the cloud. And although it is kind of only monitored by you via an app, it's still going to a third-party service, and how can you be sure that third-party service isn't then going to sell it to somebody else, or going to give it to the NSA or whoever, the GCHQ or somebody else, who then don't have a warrant of you doing whatever you're doing in your own house. So Form does look really cool, although for me personally, I mean, when I get my own place again, or if I get, well, not if, but when I get my own place, and if I decide to go down the whole home security route, what I'm probably going to do is going to get some Raspberry Pis, some webcams, and link it internally, so that basically they're just talking to each other, and either do it via a private Wi-Fi connection that's only going to call back to one server, which is completely just closed off, so one ring, and it's not actually connected to the network or the internet at all. Or I would just kind of figure out some other way of doing it, so that it would just kind of do internal stuff. You can get IP cameras, which are really cool, and they can use your internal network. And obviously, the thing with that is, as long as you sort of drill it down and you don't get those cameras to dial out to anything, you make sure their ports are only internal, then you should be fine. But yeah, so I'm not too sure that I would bother, because to be honest, it doesn't really matter, because like burglaries don't really happen too much anymore. It's like an old thing, because when there's nothing worth burgling anymore, because, you know, back in the days, TVs and PCs and stuff used to be really expensive. Now they're so cheap, you like sell them second hand, they don't actually fetch any money, so it's kind of not really worth them bothering anymore. I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to have a Razer Adero review coming, wherever they've gone. I can't remember where they've gone now, and a Razer Taipan, I think, is the mouse the Razer sent me to review, so there'll be some reviews of that coming in well, probably in the next few days as well. If you've missed it, go and check my Lumia 1520 review. That's actually up. I'll put the thing up there somewhere for you to have a look at that. And that is pretty much it. So apart from that, I shall catch you in a later video.
Making things, getting it grown, because what we make in life, what we do for others, makes us. Doing something, even just making conversation, or making time for someone. It's a reality check on your health and a responsibility to take action. Makers, thinkers, growers, doers, changing the face of men's health. We are Made in Movember. Register, grow and donate at Movember.com.